Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. How's everyone's week been? Mine's been pretty cruisy, which has been kind of nice, and just, doing normal everyday things that you normally do in lockdown. Going a bit stir crazy, but it happens. So yeah, hopefully we'll be out of it soon, but we're over 1,500 cases a day at the moment, so I guess we'll see how it all starts panning out. Yeah. But for those of you who are new here, my name is Bethany Vujan, and every week I do an episode called Toxic Tuesday, where I talk about a toxic plant that you may or may not find in your backyard. And for today's episode, we have a special one. It's Atropa Belladonna. Atropa Belladonna is more commonly known by the name of just belladonna, but it does have several other common names that it does go by as well. These include deadly nightshade, devil's cherries, bane wort, beautiful death, and death cherries. Now it is part of the Solanaceae family, which includes tomatoes, potatoes, and eggplant. Now, Atropa Belladonna is a branching herbaceous perennial Rhizomatous Hemi Cryptophyte, which is quite a mouthful, so let's break that down a little bit. Herbaceous, as we know, means there's no persistent woody stem above the ground, and perennial means that it lives for more than 2 years. Now, rhizomatous means it's a horizontal, normally underground stem that sends out roots and shoots from its nodes, and generally is called like a rootstock or a creeping rootstock. Now the last one, Hemi Cryptophyte, is where the plant produces a bud just above the soil surface, and it's protected by the leaf and stem bases. So essentially, Atropa Belladonna is a branching plant with no persistent woody stem above the soil, and it lives for more than 2 years. Its underground horizontal stem will grow roots and shoots from its nodes, and it has a bud that grows just above the soil and is underneath where the leaf and stem bases are to protect it. Now this plant can grow to 2 meters tall or 7 feet and has ovate shaped leaves that can grow to 18 centimeters or 7 inches. The flowers are bell-shaped and range in colour from a dark brown to a mottled purple with green tinges, and are faintly scented. Now the fruit of the belladonna is a berry, and it starts out in a green and goes all the way through to this absolutely gorgeous shiny black, and it's about 1.5 centimeters in diameter or 0.6 inches. Now, Atropa belladonna is sometimes confused with Solanum nigrum, which is black nightshade, because the two do look very, very similar, but black nightshade is actually less poisonous. Still poisonous, but less poisonous. Now, because they are so similar, the main differences between the two of them, if you do come across them, is that black nightshade's berries are actually all clustered together, whereas belladonna's is all grown individually, so they're not together, they're all individual. Another thing that does separate them is that black nightshade's flowers, the petals, are white, whereas as we've learned with belladonna, they go from a dull brown through to a purple with a green tinge. Belladonna is native to the southern parts of Eastern and Central Europe, but it's also been found in North Africa, Turkey, Iran, and the Caucasus. It has also been cultivated and then reintroduced to other places, including France, Canada, the US, and it's generally found in calcareous soils, which is soils that are composed of calcium carbonate, so like lime and chalk kind of soils. It is also found in disturbed ground, hedgerows, and woodlands as well. Now, because it has been naturalised into places like Canada and the US, it is also found in moist, shady places with limestone soils. Its seeds are normally spread by birds, and while it's not normally planted in a garden, when it is, it's used because of its large upright shape and its showy berries. Atropa belladonna is considered one of the most toxic plants, and ingestion of it can be life-threatening. Now obviously all of the plants that I've covered on Toxic Tuesday can be life-threatening, but Atropa belladonna is special. Now all parts of this plant are poisonous because all parts of it contain these 3 alkaloids: atropine, hyoscyamine, and scopolamine, which makes this plant both poisonous and are hallucinogenic. Now, the highest concentration of these alkaloids is actually in the leaves and the berries. Now, what's going to happen if you ingest this plant? I'm so glad you asked. Here's the list of the following symptoms that you may experience, and they're not pretty. You can have dilated pupils, you will have blurred vision, sensitivity to light, tachycardia, which is rapid heart rate, loss of balance, headache, staggering, confusion, rash, severe dry mouth and throat, slurred speech, urinary retention, which is your inability to empty your bladder, constipation, hallucinations, delirium, short-term memory loss, convulsions, coma, and possible death. Atropa Belladonna also increases your risk for pregnancy complications, cardiovascular diseases, gastrointestinal disorders, and psychiatric disorders. There is good news though. There's an antidote. So it means that you will need to go to a hospital to have that administered. Now, as a side note, Atropa Belladonna is also poisonous to domesticated animals. So if you do run across this plant, or if you do have it in your garden, make sure that any pets that you do have that are curious kind of stay far away from it, because it does actually cause narcosis and paralysis. In saying that though, rabbits, goats, sheep, horses, cattle can eat it and not have a problem. Belladonna has a rich history, and I'll start with the cosmetic application of it. So in Italian, Belladonna means beautiful woman, beautiful lady. And during the Middle Ages, Venetian women would actually get the berries of Belladonna and use a concoction of them to create a blush-like appearance on their cheeks. Now, drops were also created using the plant, and these drops were actually placed in the eye to dilate the pupil. Now, this dilation was considered to be the most beautiful look that a woman could have. It was the most seductive look that a woman could have. It did come with some side effects though, with prolonged use. This included not being able to focus on nearby objects. You would also have an increased heart rate, and you would also be experiencing minor visual distortions as well. Now, the genus name of Belladonna is a derivation of Atropa, which is from Greek mythology. She was one of the Moirai, or the three fates, and she was actually the one that was responsible for severing the thread of life. Now, the plant was also associated with the Greek god Dionysius, which is the Roman god Bacchus. And what would happen is the worshippers would take a jug of wine, they would dissolve Atropa Belladonna in it along with a bunch of other opiates to create a hallucinogenic drink. Now, upon drinking, the devotees would end up in a trance and they'd start committing acts of lascivious behaviour. It was orgies. They were having wild, wild orgies. And those who were initiated were promised eternal life and sexual potency. Ancient Romans also harnessed this plant and created poison-tipped arrows to guarantee death. They also used belladonna as a biological weapon and used it to contaminate their enemies' food reserves. Shakespeare also uses poisonous plants in his writings and plays. In Macbeth, when the Scottish army defeats the Danes, it's by contaminating their liquor with belladonna. And then while they were in a deep sleep, the Scottish army just comes through and murders them all while they're in this afflicted state. It's also believed that in the final act of Romeo and Juliet, the concoction that Juliet drinks to fake her death is actually a concoction that's made with belladonna, and it's what put her in that catatonic state. Belladonna was also believed to have magical properties. Witches were said to have used it along with opium poppy and other poisonous plants to create a flying ointment, which would actually allow them or help them fly to other witches and other gatherings. And in Romania, belladonna has actually been used to create love spells or hate spells, depending on the ritual that was being followed. Now, as with most poisonous plants, as we know now from my previous videos, I go through what the traditional medicinal uses are. But with Atropa belladonna, it's actually still used today in modern medicine. So traditionally, it was used as an anesthetic for surgery. Midwives would use it to prevent miscarriages and to also help ease labour. And some other uses also included the treatment of wounds, gout, and sleeplessness. So due to belladonna's pre-anesthetic history, it's managed to find its way into modern medicine. Now, the atropine toxin is actually really effective at reducing muscle spasms and regulating someone's heart rate. Ophthalmologists use atropine to dilute a person's eyes, so that way it's a lot easier for them during an eye exam. Scopolamine is used because of its effectiveness at reducing body secretions like stomach acid. So if you suffer from nausea or motion sickness or reflux, that's actually a really good thing for you. Now, when used with other medications, these two chemical derivatives are actually really good at combating IBS, pink eye, stomach ulcers, and diverticulitis, which are small bulging pouches that have developed in the intestine and are inflamed or infected. Belladonna products can also be purchased over the counter as tablets, liquids, tinctures, or sprays, and companies generally claim that their products assist with fevers, sore throats, coughs, joint and back pain, inflammation, and earaches. So that is everything today, guys, on Atropa Belladonna. There was so much historical stuff that I found that I just could not fit into today's episode. If you'd like me to do a part 2 and just do the history, I'll be more than happy to do that. Just leave it in the comments if that's what you would like. But no, thank you all so much for spending some of your day with me. As always, it is appreciated. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But I will see you all next week for a new episode of Toxic Tuesday. So stay safe and keep on learning. Bye, guys.